We've got some rusted brake lines on this one. Rusted fuel lines, brake lines, both. Let me show you how to repair them. I'm not going to show you how to replace the brake lines on the vehicle, guys. I'm going to show you how to make your own brake lines the right length. The problem with brake lines is always the same thing. People goes out and buys little sections of brake line, you know, and pieces it all together, and you got a big mess under your car. You need one continuous piece, guys, from front to back, whatever's rusted, that's how you want to replace them. So I'm going to show you how to do all the fittings and all that. And as far as crawling under this thing and, you know, getting rust all in my eye and all that kind of stuff, I'm not going to videotape that. First thing is just a couple tools I'll show you here. Here's a bender, you know, tubing bender. Comes with different sizes. Tubing cutter. You guys have probably all seen that. And this is a flare tool. This one's made by Rigid. And I wanna show you the difference. You can go to AutoZone or something, buy some cheap crap one, but the difference is this one's a lot thicker, guys. The thickness of that. So when you squeeze it together and hold it, it'll hold it. You buy those cheap ones, the line just wants to slip right out through it. And I think that's because it's made for standard brake lines, and I think a lot of them are metric now. But this one will work on both metric and standard. And that's important, guys, because when you get frustrated working on a car, when you're trying to work on it and make a flare and it's slipping out, it's very frustrating. So spend a little extra money. These aren't that much more. And they make better ones than this. These are called tubing wrenches or line wrenches. And they'll fit, you know, over the tube, and you slip them on there, and they'll fit more surface area around that fitting so you don't, you know, strip it out. Another thing, the kind of brake line you use. I don't endorse any company or anything like that, but this is a kind of brake line, and I'm sure there's other brands. What's different about this brake line and other brake lines is very flexible. See, you can bend it however you want, and it won't kink up or anything. So it's a lot nicer to work with than that old stiff stuff. And then, you know, like if you use your little tubing bender, which is not necessary really on this, but if you want a nice clean bend, you know, then you use your little tubing bender there. And you'll get nice clean bends. Onto the flare fitting part of this whole deal. And the first thing you want to do, guys, is take your old brake line off, and there'll be a fitting on the end of it. And I said I wouldn't work under the car, but for demonstration purposes, this is the way I always start off. I usually just cut the line, and then we'll get this fitting off of here. I couldn't find the right size tubing wrench, so, you know, whatever. This is real life. All I gotta do is get that fitting off without damaging it. Quick tip for you. When you're working on these, sometimes these fittings are rusted in there solid and you can't get them out. Don't put vice grips on them or mess up the fitting. What you want to do is, you saw where I cut it with them side cutters. Instead of cutting it long with the side cutters, cut it short like that. Now you can put a socket on it, a 6-point socket, and that'll allow you to get it out without destroying the fitting. You know, this one wasn't that bad, so I did it the way I did it. There's two different kind of flares. This one right here on this line was a bubble flare, and what that means is right here on the end, it bubbles out. It's hard to see on the camera. The other kind of flare, it goes inward, you know, like a cone shape. Hopefully you can see that looks like a bubble. I'll demonstrate how to do that one first. Just make sure you always remember to put your fitting on. There's nothing worse than making a flare fitting and forgetting to put your fitting on there. Then you got to cut it off and do it again, and I've done that 1,000 times. This part right here, on your tubing cutter comes out so that you can clean the inside of your tube out real nice. So you have a 1/4 inch sticking out. Take your, for a bubble flare, you need to take this little die, I guess they call it, and stick it on the tube. And it still won't fit, so go back and clean it out a little bit better with your tubing cutter. Then put the other part of your flare tool on there and tighten it up. Just tighten this up. It'll compress that, and it'll actually make a bubble flare. So we'll unscrew it here. And there you have it. A nice bubble flare. To make the other kind of flare, all you have to, you do this step first. This is called a double flare, not a bubble, but this one is called a double. So just put it back how it was in there, just like that. Normally you wouldn't take it out if you're going to make a double flare. You just leave it in there. So get everything set back up. Now there's nothing in there this time. All you have to do is tighten this up. And there's the finished product. Can you see how it's a cone shape inside of there? Older vehicles have that double flare, not a bubble, but the newer ones have bubble flares. So that's how you make your 2 flare fittings. So those are the 2 kind of flares used on cars. Like I say, the double flare is older vehicles and the bubble flare is newer. But you don't want to do a single flare on brake lines because you don't have enough surface area there to seal it good. It's not safe, guys. Same with compression fittings and stuff like that. You don't want to use that if you don't have to, especially if you're building a nice car. You want a seamless piece of tubing front to back so that you don't have a big hacked up mess with a bunch of compression fittings and just, half rusted lines, new lines pieced together. Buy a roll of line, guys. Buy yourselves a big long roll of brake line and make your own ends. You can also buy these fittings if you have to, if yours are destroyed or rusted all, to pieces. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, guys. This may be the last car I work on in this shop, getting ready to move out. Maybe moving next week, so keep up with all that activity, guys. I'm going to show you how to move the lift, things like that. We'll see you next time.